Hi, this is DL. Welcome to Cleansing Negative Vibes, purifying and protecting yourself and your environment. We all know how important it is to take care of our inner world. We have to eat the right foods, we have to think the right thoughts to feel what we want to feel. We also know that our physical body needs care. We need exercise, sleep, good hygiene. But guess what? Your environment is yet another dimension of you, and one that also needs good hygiene. Be it your home, your workspace, or play space, your environment can have a huge impact on how you think, feel, and maintain your energy. Our spaces can become contaminated when we watch violent programs or ruminate about the state of the world or argue with loved ones. If we've been physically ill or even if we've had a bad dream. And chaos or clutter can also disorganize the energy of a space. Even if we aren't contributing somehow to the negative vibes in our space, others may be. Perhaps we work with someone who's critical, or maybe we had an unpleasant interaction with someone angry or frightened. I'm sure that many of you also have walked into a room and felt any heavy energies that preceded you there. Or perhaps you've been to very old places or buildings and have walked in and felt just kind of uneasy. If you're empathic or a light worker, or you work with energy in any way, you're going to be sensitive to these energies. And you probably already know they need to be cleared on a regular basis. For those of you who maybe are new to this idea, it's just as important for you whether you are yet aware of the intensity and effects of the energy or not. Even if energies can't be cleared from a space because maybe they're too much for one person or they're just very deeply ingrained, it's best to arm yourself with some protection lest you get dragged down. So today I'll be sharing numerous ways you'll be able to do both. Clear your space and protect your energy. Many of them you can employ right now. So let's get started. So let's just start with a brief overview of what we'll be covering today. I will explain smudging, the idea of using herbs for purification, the use of water. We'll explore mantra and sound. I will explain how to do egg cleansings. We'll talk about visualization as a tool for clearing, sea salt and other salts, crystals and gemstones, using movement to shift energy, and nature. So let's begin our discussion of smudging now. Smudging is basically the use of smoke to clear a space and or somebody's aura. And this is something that you can perform in a space for your own body or for someone else who's experiencing negative thoughts or, shaky over a negative encounter or not feeling well, whatever the situation. You can smudge on behalf of another person. With whatever you do with smudging, and actually with each of these types of cleansings that I'm going to share with you, it's really about your intent and your willingness to help and to be of service to the space or person or to yourself. So always keep your vibration as high as possible and your intent clear when you're working with a cleansing. Smoke is considered a bridge to our spirituality, to higher dimensions. It's a carrier of our prayers and intentions. So that's why smoke has been used throughout the centuries by many different indigenous peoples all over the world. And typically, either some kind of incense or grasses or sage, other herbs, or resins like copal, or wood like Palo Santo. So there are all different kinds of things that can be burned, and they all carry their own properties that they would contribute. For instance, sage, white sage in particular, is a very powerful cleanser for space and to remove negativity. Copal is another one that I absolutely love. So just find something that you enjoy the smell of and that just, adds that spark of energy to a space. And you can, if you're not sure what types of things you can smudge with, you can just look them up online. There are a lot of different choices that you have. And of course, each of the herbs has different qualities, as I've mentioned, so you can look those up as well. I'll talk a little bit about some of the particular herbs that are really good for cleansing in a moment. But I want to talk right now about how you can actually use smudging. Typically, a bird of prey feather is used. You would light the smudge, usually using either a shell to hold the ash that falls. You don't necessarily need that, but ash will fall, so just be aware of that. You don't want anything to catch on fire from falling soot that might still be alight and burning. If you have a feather from a bird of prey, again, different birds hold different qualities. Like the owl, if you have an owl feather, owls are really good at seeing things that aren't evident to the rest of us. So if there's something you want to be revealed, you might use that in a particular space or with a particular person. Likewise, if you think of eagle energy and what the eagle medicine brings, you might choose, if you have access to an eagle feather, condor, turkey feathers, really good for compassion and that sort of thing. So you can choose any one of those birds or something that you just find, it could be a crow feather, and use that basically. Like let's say that you're going to do yourself. So first of all, if you don't have a feather, it's not important. You can use your hands to bring the smoke towards your body and to kind of, feel the energy around your body and the reaction and interaction with the smoke so that you know what needs to be combed through. If you have a feather, then you're just going to comb over your body from the top of your head down to your feet. And it's not easy to get the back of your body, but you can to some extent. And what you're doing is you're feeling for changes in the current as you bring the feather down. And you'll notice places where it starts to feel kind of heavy or sticky or like you're dragging it through molasses. And that is an area that you just want to linger in and wave the feather so you can dispel some of the energy, the stagnation, the collection of negativity, and work through that. And again, you would do the same thing if it was for another person. You would just comb through the front body and back body, and you don't want to actually touch the body with the feather. Just hold it about 3 inches away. You'll get a sense of where to hold it and feel again for any shifts in the current as the feather passes. You can go very lightly. You don't have to be rigorous with it, but you can also, make a kind of a sound as you drag the feather over and flap it. And what the feather is doing is basically eating the emotional or energetic carry-on that needs to be dispelled. Is there anything else I need to say about that? Now, if you're going to be cleansing a room, then what I would do is tend to work in the corners first. So I would take the smudge into the corners, and I would, if I had the feather, I would use the feather. If I didn't have a feather, I might blow the smoke, just blowing it towards the corner. You can also use your hand if that's possible. So just kind of guiding the smoke into the corners, or even just with a simple prayer is enough, and let the smoke kind of penetrate into the corners of the room. And then I would bring whatever was burning through the rest of the room, and just pay attention to areas where it feels really heavy or stagnant. When I clean my bedroom, I make sure to get under the bed, I make sure to get over the bed, dispel any dream time energy that needs to be moved or, purified. So yeah, it's smudging is not it's not very complicated. And again, the most important thing is your intent while you're doing it. Some people will recite prayers or mantras during cleansing, and that's perfectly fine. An example of a prayer would be something like, Creator, source of all, please cleanse this space of negativity and open up new pathways for compassion and equanimity, love and joy, love and light, something like that, just to help affirm what you're doing. The other thing I really like to do is smudging my car. This is something that I've done. I've used copal in the past, and I just light some charcoal and put some copal in the charcoal, and have that in my car, and the whole car will get completely filled with smoke. I'll have the windows rolled up, and it just seeps into everything. And then I take the copal out, and I roll the windows down. I let the car air out, and it feels just clean. It feels energetically clean. And then I don't feel so I feel as though I have this protection around me when I'm driving. We can control how we drive, but we can't always control how other people drive. And so it's just a layer of protection to do that for yourself and your vehicle. So let's take a look now at water and how it can be used to cleanse and purify an environment or your physical body. So, bathing or showering is something we all do, and we might not realize the true significance of cleansing ourselves in this way. In India, they have what they call puja, and it's the idea of the sacred approach or ritual of cleansing the body. So it's done with much love and much attention to the body, instead of just going about just as a task of hygiene, making it a ritual, something sacred. Water is both purifying and cleansing, and it helps to rid the body and mind of negativity. There are a lot of herbs that you can use in bath water, or in shower, when you shower. Again, you can use all kinds of different essential oils. If you use essential oils, you want to be careful because some people are very sensitive to them. They can burn the skin right out of the bottle. So what I would recommend is using a carrier oil to dilute the oil first. So you can use almond oil, or you can use a half a cup of milk, put some of the drops of the essential oil in that, and then add that to the bath. Some of the best essential oils for cleansing would be peppermint, which clears tension and frustration; cedar, which is beneficial for helping with your spiritual strength. So if you're feeling weak and unsure; cypress is really helpful with grounding and purifying; and juniper berry helps to negate negativity. Myrrh transforms negativity into a different energy. So if you noticed, 4 of those come from trees. So that's pretty interesting. Herb infusions, you can just gather from your garden whatever herbs you have growing, and then boil them. And after about 20 minutes or so, add that to your bath water. And some of the herbs that are really good for this type of work would be rue, which has purifying, stimulating, and protective qualities. Rosemary, which is protective and clarifying. It's also anti-inflammatory and stimulating. And then lavender, which is a really good go-to throughout this topic, which is purifying, soothing, and relaxing. The other thing to consider when you're working with cleansing in this way, especially with the physical body and using water, is really putting your focus on the fact that the water has the ability to carry away any thoughts or beliefs, habits, or old paradigms that you want to be free from. So imagine, whatever energy you want to get rid of as being washed away by the water or the waves or wherever you find yourself and going down the drain or out with the tide, etc. And I want to talk about a trick that I've used before. I call it a trick, but it's a tool. There was a woman in my life that I had to do some work with, and we really just kept butting heads, and it was very uncomfortable for me. And whenever I was done working with her, I would feel so drained. And there was just, I don't know, she just seemed to generate chaos. And so someone had recommended to me to write her name on a piece of paper, put that piece of paper in a jar, fill the jar with water, put a lid on it, and then put it in the freezer. And that's what I did. And it wasn't with the intent to cause her any harm. It was just to put some distance between the energetic thing that was happening between us. And it made it possible for me to work with her without getting so entangled in the energy. And it worked. So that's a way to use water as well to help protect your space and your boundaries. All right, let's talk about mantras now. Mantras are ancient prayers. They have been repeated throughout the centuries by their practitioners, and so they become more powerful each time they are recited. So if you can imagine, from centuries and centuries ago, and that people today are still chanting them, they have the backing of all of that faith over time. And sound, which moves in waves, doesn't move in just a linear fashion. It moves in all directions. So you can think of reciting the prayer as creating a bubble of protection around the person who is chanting or listening. There are so many different chants from so many different traditions, whether it's Buddhist or Hindu or Native American. You can research online and find something that calls to you, and that is the purpose of it is to bring whatever qualities you are desiring. One of the sweetest ones I know for generating compassion and healing is green Tara, and that's Om Tare Tutare Ture Soha. And there are many different recorded versions of that, so you can find one you like and play it and learn it and recite it for yourself. Another one that comes from Yang Bun, which is extremely powerful for liberating ourselves from our egos and from illusion, and it's O Matre Muye Saledu. Now that one is not as well known, and you might have a harder time finding recordings of it, but it's Om Matre Muye Saledu. You can just repeat that yourself. You don't necessarily need a recording to chant a mantra. Repeat the mantra as long as desired, at least 3 minutes, or you can listen to the recording. But I will say that when you use your voice, you are creating vibrations from inside your field, and therefore extending a bubble from the center out, versus receiving, the bubble passively as you listen to something from outside. So it's a slightly different effect. Okay, so let's talk about sound now, which sound shifts the vibratory state. So whether it be of the energy of a room or the energy in your body or in someone else's body, when we introduce sound, we start to change the field. And the body is primarily water, and water conducts sound. So when we apply sound to an environment, the body is going to also respond. We can use Tibetan bowls, we can use bells, rattles, gongs, extremely powerful, and drums as well, all very powerful to shift and change the energy of a space. They can really clear space. And if you do it with your intent, as I've been talking throughout this whole series about, the intent being so important. If your intent is to clear the space, these tools can help you do that. Okay, now on to a traditional or folkloric medicine known as limpia, which can be done with herbs, but in this particular one, we'll be talking about egg cleansing. So basically, you would want to use an unfertilized egg, and this can be taken from the refrigerator or, from whatever. It doesn't have to be cold, but you just want it to be a raw egg. Eggs are like magnets. In fact, they have magnetic qualities, and so they are used to draw cordings and attachments and things away from the body. They entrap them, and then the body is then free of this contamination. Curanderas are masters with eggs, and they can break the egg after a cleansing in a glass of water, and then they can read and diagnose the different strands and how the egg has settled in the water. We're not going to get into that, and you don't need to know how to do that. All you need to do is place your intent and faith within the egg. And so we program the egg with our intent. So let me go over the steps. First of all, you would want to grab an egg, and it's fine to take it just out of the refrigerator, but if it's really cold, it can be uncomfortable for the person who's receiving the cleansing. So you might want to have them at room temperature. If it's really hot outside, sometimes it can feel really nice to have a cold egg. So just keep that in mind. When you get the egg out, you want to cleanse it, and you can use some of the things that we've been talking about already. The easiest way really is to either light a candle and just hold the egg over the flame, or use some smudge or something. And once the egg is purified and cleansed, you don't want any negative energy on the egg to start. So that's why that's important. Then you would want to set your intent. So if you're doing your own body, set your intent for yourself, that you want it to purify and remove all evil, negativity, whatever you want to say. And you would blow that energy, that intent, that prayer right into the egg. And then you'll begin to sweep your entire body, and the egg does land on the body rather than when you're smudging and you're using the feather, it's about 3 inches from the body. With the egg, you actually place the egg on the body. So you'll begin rubbing the crown of your head and work your way down and get everything you can. And you'll find places where you might want to linger. It's really lovely if you can hold the intent as you're doing it, as you come over each of your senses to purify your sight, to see clearly, to speak words of beauty, to hear with love and compassion as you're going past your ears, etc. Each of the chakras might also require a little more time and energy as you're working down the body. And also the other thing is the joints. The joints can hold a lot of energy and fear and all sorts of things. So you can use a little more time over the joints of the body. And you'll just go from head to toe, cleansing, allowing the egg to take the energy and do the front of the body and the back of the body. And then when you're done, you will either break the egg in the toilet and flush it, or you can take it outside and bury it in the earth. Now, if you're going to work on someone else, the only difference would be after you cleanse the egg, you set your intention, and then they would set their intention, and they would blow their intent into the egg, and then you would begin to sweep their body with the egg. Just ask a person if they're uncomfortable being touched anywhere, because you don't want to invade somebody's space, and then honor whatever they say. And then when it's finished, have them blow 3 times into the egg any last remaining residual thing. This is their chance to let it all go. So remind them, this is your opportunity to let go, let it go, blow it into the egg. And again, you can either flush or bury the egg. So that is egg cleansing in a nutshell. All right, so visualization is a very powerful tool that we all have access to, that you can use to do 2 things. To set the stage for your tomorrow, and also to protect yourself for the day. So we're going to talk about those 2 things, and I'm going to give you an example of each. So the first meditation was taught to me by my mentor, and it's called the semi-permeable membrane meditation. And I'm going to have you sit up straight with your feet on the floor. Just get yourself settled comfortably. Close your eyes. Breathe. And I want you to imagine a bubble surrounding you. And within this bubble is you. And this bubble may need some repair. It may need some mending. So I want you to look around this bubble as you're in it, and I want you to look for any tears or holes or things poking through. Just notice the texture of the surface of the bubble from the inside. And as you find things that need to be cleaned or repaired or stitched up or plugged up, go ahead and make those repairs with whatever you imagine. Maybe you are using a vacuum to vacuum up all the dirt, or maybe you are using a needle and thread to repair, or some kind of mortar to patch a hole and make it smooth and pristine and clean. And as you do this, the walls within this bubble, this sphere, begin to sparkle and shine. They become clean and mirror-like. And now imagine this ray of light penetrating through the very top of this sphere, filling the sphere with light, flooding it with bright white light. And this ray of light penetrates through the very center. And this ray of light is your ray. It is you. Invincible. Powerful. So now this inner dimension is cleansed and protected. We will move out a layer through the membrane of this bubble, this sphere, which is actually semi-permeable. You can move through it. Things can go out and things can come in, but you get to choose what moves through. So move out through that membrane into the layer outside of it, which is a protective buffer zone. It's like a fluffy marshmallow or cotton ball-like covering over the entire sphere. And begin to look for and seek out places where it has been punctured or poked or stretched, or where it has collapsed. And I want you to fluff it up. Fluff it like a big feather pillow. Make it fluffy again. Make it springy again. Remove any arrows or sticks or knives or sharp things that might be poking into it. And throw those away. And know that this fluffy buffer zone is what will protect you from the negative intent and vibes from others. This fluffy buffer zone will capture and or bounce off its surface things that aren't yours. But remember that it's also semi-permeable, so it will allow through and into the core of your sphere. It will allow through those things that you want and need. And just imagine now that whole package, that inner sphere, the semi-permeable membrane, and the protective fluffy coating. And you can open your eyes gently. So this is an example of something you can do to protect yourself before you go out into the world every morning, or you can do it at night to make sure that your energy is clear for your dream time. There are a lot of variations to that exercise, and it actually goes several steps deeper. But for the purpose of our webinar, we'll stop there, just to give you an idea of how you can do it, and actually that would be enough. But if you want to take it deeper, it can be taken much deeper. The other thing you can do is called setting the stage, and I know Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about this. I'm not sure if I don't think he calls it setting the stage. I think he calls it something else. But it's, it's kind of planning your day before it happens, and deciding what's going to happen. With setting the stage, the idea is that you see yourself walking through the day that's coming. So let's say you wake up in the morning, you do a little meditation and see yourself walking through your day, but you don't focus on the mundane. Rather, you focus on the miraculous. So you imagine yourself placing your feet on the floor for the first time as you get out of bed. And you feel a rush of love up through your feet from the floor. And then you feel yourself walking towards the door. And as you pass through the door, an energy of love surrounds you. And you go and you go about your day, whether you eat your breakfast or you wash up. But you don't just see that happening. You see the food as nourishment from the gods. You see washing yourself as a puja, as a sacred act, and feel the love. You imagine yourself looking in the mirror and seeing your divine face. You go off to work, and along your journey, there are miracles on the path. And, maybe there are hills to climb. Maybe there are winding roads. But there's always something up ahead to help, to support, to aid, to protect, to offer love. And that is another really powerful way to protect yourself from negativity and to also clear, negative habits, negative energy. So it's and even though those two examples are pretty much just something you would do for yourself, you can do the same thing for a room. You can clear a room in that same way, just using your imagination and using the tools of your imagination with your intent. So, on behalf of someone else, you can talk someone through a meditation such as this and help them clear for themselves any negativity or weight that they're feeling, and just turn their attention back to the light and back to love. Okay, so let's talk about sea salt now. Salt is a known negative energy absorber. So you may have heard of people using it in bowls in corners of the room or on altars. And, if you leave it there, you place a bowl, fill it with salt, place it in the corner or on an altar, leave it for a week or so, and then refresh the salt whenever you need to and dump the old salt somewhere outside or down the drain. What it will do is absorb any negativity and purify the environment. You can place a little glass of salt water at night by the bed, and that will protect you throughout the evening and through your dreams, and then flush it in the morning. You can also apply salt to, like if you buy some used furniture or some used item, before you bring it into the house, you can just cleanse it with salt, sprinkle it with salt. And that will help to remove any negativity or attachments or things that are clinging to that used object. So you can use it in bowls. You can buy salt lamps. You can take a bath with different salts. We talked about Epsom salts earlier. Sea salt also is really good. Okay, so that would be salts. Okay, let's talk about crystals and gemstones. Now, there are so many out there, and books have been written about the subject, so I can't obviously cover very many, but I'll cover a few that are most known for their protective and cleansing qualities, starting with smoky quartz, which is really good for neutralizing negativity. Obsidian is another lovely one that protects against negativity and psychic attack. I love working with obsidian in my dream time, so I usually place a little obsidian either under my pillow or just hold it at night. You can put it under your bed as well. Turquoise wards off danger and illness. It also is a really good stone for finding your voice. I'll just mention that here, so you can use it in that way as well. Amethyst is very protective and it helps to transmute negative energy. And then peridot or peridot protects the wearer from energy drains. So if you have a particular person in your life or a particular activity that just totally wears you out, you can try the peridot for that. So a lot of different kinds. Again, just find what works for you. There are many ways you can use these, some of which I've already mentioned, like placing them, under a pillow or under your bed. You can place them in or near your drinking water to help bring the quality to your water that you drink. Just make sure if you put it in the water that it's not a water-soluble mineral. You can meditate with them just by holding them in your hands. You can place them on an altar with your prayer or intent. You can, of course, find jewelry with various gemstones or make your own. You can just place a stone in a medicine bag and wear that around your neck. You can keep them on a desk. Some of the stones are really good to help with EMF from your computers and all of that, so you can use them in that way as well. You can put them on the dash of your car or in the glove box for protection. If you do use them regularly, you'll also want to cleanse them regularly. And really, any of the techniques that I'm mentioning here today, you can use to cleanse your crystals and gemstones. So you can bathe them in water or herb distillations, as long as they are, not water soluble, as I already mentioned. You can cleanse them with bright sunlight or moonlight. You can smudge them and, wave them over the smoke. So a lot of different ways to cleanse them. Just make sure that you do that, because they can accumulate energy and they can also break. I had a smoky quartz break in half. I was very sad about that. Okay, so one of the ways that I've used gemstones in the past was at a large family gathering at Christmas time. I had been doing a lot of work on myself, on my family issues, and this was the first time that I was seeing some family members for the first time in a long time. And I was a little nervous about it, and I didn't know what to do other than I wanted to do something that signified and acknowledged the work that I'd been doing on myself. And I started to journal, the essence of what I felt our relationships were for each person, how I used their energy, how they perhaps were using my energy, or how it felt to me. And I chose a gemstone for each person based on what I felt they were needing me for, so that I could safely cut the cord. And, my intent was, as soon as they opened the little ring box with the gemstone in it, that in that instant the cord would connect to the gemstone and disconnect from me, and they would have that surrogate, that crystal, to provide for them that energy that I had been providing, and or vice versa, that I would now be responsible for my own needs energetically. And it was really lovely. Everyone enjoyed. They had so much fun discovering, oh, well, what am I gonna get? And then when they'd open it, and I included a little description that just said what the stone was generally known for. I didn't make it personal about them. I didn't tell them the reason I was giving it to them. But it was a very powerful thing, activity, and I'm so glad I did it. So I highly recommend, if you ever want to cut cords with somebody, to do it in this way. I found out, years later that some of the family members still had their stones, and they kept them. So it was turned out to be a really precious experience for me. All right, let's talk about movement, which is another fantastic way to move energy. And in fact, if you're not doing some form of movement, then you're stagnating. That's just, I'm spelling it out for you there. As you know, I'm a yoga teacher, so yoga is a really big part of my life, but you don't have to do yoga, and you don't have to be a dancer either. You just need to move your body, organic movement. Put on some music that you love and move. It's going to not only change and alter the state of your body and your mind, but it's going to alter the energy in the room as well. You can also do something called de-switching and or heart math. The two have similar ties, but there are exercises that are designed to change and alter your brain states and or get you into your heart more. They help unify, the two sides of your brain, and they help take you out of stressful or negative states. So if you want to look up de-switching or heart math, you can learn some techniques that will help you. They're just easy physical movements that you can do. One of them I'll share with you now is called dynamic shift. To dynamic shift, you just want to open and close your fists, your hands, your fingers. You're not making a fist per se. You're just opening and closing your fingers into your palms. And as you do that briskly, as fast as you can, you also start to blink your eyes very quickly. You kind of feel like you're in a strobe light, okay? And then you'll also shake one leg at a time, so just going from one leg to the other and just keep going. So you're opening and closing your fingers, you're blinking your eyes rapidly, and at the same time, you're shaking your legs one at a time. And you just do this for, 30 seconds to a minute or however long you feel like you need to, and it's going to change your energy. It's going to get you out of that stinking thinking or that pervasive sticky thought or pattern. Okay, so finally, let's talk about nature. This one is just so obvious, the importance of nature to our well-being, and that we need to get out into the sunlight and take it in, and we need to breathe fresh, clean air, and we need to feel the grass under our feet and touch the trees and, plant flowers and smell flowers and just take in everything we can about the beauty of nature and the animals. And, nature provides us with the negative ions that promote positive feelings. If you've ever gone to the seashore and just, gosh, the air is so fresh and it feels so charged. It's charged with those negative ions. And there's the sound of the water, and all of that feeding your senses in such positive ways helps you get out of your head and can shift negative feelings. So some ways you can work with nature in addition to, taking trips and walking through nature. There's forest bathing, as some people are doing now, which is just walking through the trees. Digging a hole in the earth and with your hands, really getting your hands dirty and just dig and feel the earth and the consistency, and plant a tree while you're at it, or a flower or something. You can sit with a tree. You can sit with your back to the tree and kind of feel the energy of the tree and share with the tree. You can also vocal tone with the tree, or just talk to the tree. Trees have different properties, just like the essential oils and the herbs do. So you can look up the different qualities that trees possess. And if you have a certain type of tree that would benefit you, you can seek that out and use that. Walking barefoot, which is grounding, is very important. Even just taking your shoes off and just planting your feet in the grass for a few minutes, or your hands in the grass for a few minutes, can help to discharge some of the energies that are clinging on. Using clay or mud is also really beneficial. The Aborigines in Australia will use different types of clay, and what they'll do is they will, they'll focus on something, an illness or something that needs to be changed or cleared or cleansed, and they will use the clay over the forehead And what they say is that, you leave the clay there, so you've got these marks on your forehead, and then as it dries and it falls off, it's said that those energies have been absorbed by the clay and have fallen off with the clay. So that's a powerful way to change a state as well. You can also, like, not just in terms of cleansing yourself, but you can cleanse your environment with nature by bringing nature inside. So having plants is a really big thing. You may have a pet, and you know how healing pets can be. So spend time with your pet. So I hope this has given you some new ideas, maybe, or new insights into how to protect and cleanse yourself and your environment from negative energy and keep the good vibes going. If you want to know more about me, visit my website,